Traveling to Consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton Cuteri, and in today's podcast, we are going to be talking about the week in review. And I know, I've not been getting you guys Indigo Education podcasts. I do apologize for that, but we will get there. We will bring those back. The last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it's been, have been crazy on my end. Very good. A lot of networking, a lot of progress being made on the back end with different projects. So I'm excited to get you guys wrapped up on those. But just know that on the back end, everything's good. Getting to the gym, getting fit, reducing my body fat. I know you guys probably don't care about all my intrapersonal things, or maybe you do. I don't know. You've been listening to me this long. I feel like you gotta, I don't know, enjoy more than that at this point. But I don't know. Maybe you guys are all enjoying this so much that I should just avoid talking about it. But yeah, everything's good. Projects are moving along. Everything is happy. I have just been slacking. I take full responsibility. I have not been getting you guys the Indigo Education knowledge that you guys deserve. And I've been learning a lot. So maybe this is kind of just like a refresh period where I am kind of sitting back, I'm learning, and then it'll be like a big data dump, if you will, because that's how I have to teach, right? Like at the end of the day, I have to be able to go through these things, learn through these things, and then I can teach you guys what's going on, how to see things, or understand them from my perspective at least. And hopefully that gives you a heightened level of a perspective on the reality and the world. But as I'm getting even deeper into this, we're talking a whole lot right now about spirituality, but in this podcast, we should be talking about the week in review and all of the craziness that has been going on. So a couple of the things we're going to be diving into today, we had some more LA riots and the National Guard got deployed. We're going to be talking about Israel, because Israel just can't stay out of the news. They just keep wanting to create drama. It feels like that high school girlfriend who, once you stop talking about her and something else kind of happens in the world, she just has to like make some drama so that people talk about her. I have a feeling Israel kind of falls into that category where once something big happens outside the world, Israel comes in and is like, wait, don't forget about me, guys. And so then they do something crazy and outlandish that nobody agrees with and is evil, if you will. But we have a lot of Israel talk to get into. And then I think there was something else that I wanted to speak on, but maybe we'll get to that when we get to that. So let's start off with Israel. We have the LA riots. We have Israel. What feels right? Let's start off with Israel because, well, Israel's going to take up, I think, majority of this podcast because it still blows my mind. J.D. Vance made some crazy-ass comments. Oh, yeah, we had Kash Patel also making some crazy-ass comments. You know what? My energy's going to it, so we're going to talk about it right now. So, in case you missed it, here's what happened with Israel, with our best ally in the region, who does absolutely nothing for us. Basically, there was a boat that was headed to Gaza to give humanitarian aid, and it was getting some famous publicity because it had Greta Thunberg on it, who's this climate activist. She was known for being a climate activist when she was younger, and as she kind of got older, she has now realized like that there's a genocide happening in Gaza, and so she has shifted her focus onto that. So what happened, I'm not wearing my watch, but basically this happened yesterday. The Israeli forces stopped her boat. It's called the Madleen. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Madleen. And it was trying to bring aid into Gaza, which is where the Palestinians live. Now, the boat included 12 activists on it, including Greta, and it was carrying a small amount of supplies, like honestly, like inconsequential amount of supplies. The size of this boat, like maybe it could help a family for a couple weeks. Like there's no way that there's a tremendous amount of supplies on it. So, wow, actually, I'm thinking about this in real time. Maybe this was a whole media stunt at the end of the day. But anyhow, had a small amount of supplies, baby formula, food, medical items, like nothing like serious at all. But here's the deal, is that Israel has a naval blockade because, you know, the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza is basically to starve out the Palestinians, create stress, fear, anxiety, forcing them to leave or to die so that Israel can just take over the entire area. I mean, that's their end goal. They kind of say it tongue in cheek, but if you like actually look at the actions they are taking and the way that they speak and realize that in politics people lie, that's their end goal. And so that's kind of what they're doing in those areas. So their idea was at least to go through the sea to Gaza to stop the weapons, or to stop their items getting to Hamas. But the boat has now been taken to an Israeli port, and I guess the activists have been detained as well. They say they're being treated well. They're getting food and water, which is more than the Palestinians. So the group that was behind the boat is called the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and they were trying to help people in Gaza. And I don't know. I mean, the fact that this boat was so small, makes me think that it was just some sort of political stunt at some level, and maybe that was like the idea here. So I don't know. Maybe it's a distraction as well. I think, kudos to Greta. I think she's been a political pawn since she was a child. And I don't know, like going back to 2010 when she was a kid. And so I don't really think it's the right thing to get kids involved in such a messy situation, any of them. And so I don't, regardless of what her politics is, I hope she has a fruitful life. But I think it's difficult for kids to have a very promising life whenever their childhood's kind of robbed from them. And I think she got thrusted into the spotlight very quickly at a very young age and was basically, in a way, brainwashed to say the things that she's saying. And so my heart kind of goes out to her in those regards. I think we need to protect children from craziness, like very complex things, because they should be able to enjoy their childhood to the fullest. And I see that just being stripped away from kids all over the place. And so hopefully she, keeps doing well, kind of stuff like that. But I just kind of felt like, maybe there's a little too much there. But speaking of Israel, of course, I don't know if you guys saw this as well, but they have actually been shooting civilians who have been going to their sites for aid. So there was a group that was between U.S. and Israel that was set up, and they were creating these aid sites in Gaza. Pictures were not good. Looked like they were rounding them up like cattle. It kind of looked like out of the Holocaust, sort of, what do you want to call it? It looked like it was out of the Holocaust. This, what am I trying to say here? The way that they were kind of lining up people with fences to partition them. And honestly, guys, I take a step back and I look at this and I don't even know if that was maybe a political stunt too, or just for the cameras. I really don't know anymore. It's so hard to know what is legitimate, what is legitimate aid, what are these legitimate people actually doing, and what's just this publicity stunt to create different images and fear. But unfortunately, what we do know for sure is that people are dying, people are being killed, and it's tragic. It's absolutely tragic what is happening over there. So hopefully we can come to our senses. It seems like, what does it seem like? It seems like they're misstepping. They're making mistakes, if you will. You gotta, and it's kind of hard to talk about because it goes very deep. You kind of have to take a step back from the entire geopolitical landscape and just look at it as if you're a third party observer. Look at it as if you're this entity floating above Earth and seeing how it's all playing out. You have to remove all attachment, all affinity to a certain country, to certain people, to a certain land, and just see kind of what's going on. What are people trying to do? Where are things moving? It's almost like a chess game, right? And we're the individual pieces on the board, and you can't really understand your purpose or your role unless you zoom out and you look at the entire landscape and say, okay, what is going on here? What are the players doing here? And you could look at this in a way. I mean, it's kind of poetic that you have in chess a white and a light and a dark. So you could look at this in terms of the yin and the yang of light and dark. And so, if you want to look at this as God versus Satan, whatever you want to call it, you can look at it in that realm. And I think that there can be a lot of knowledge that you can intuitively figure out for yourself when you start taking a step back and looking at it in those regards, as opposed to being drenched as the pond, and then you get just a news source just telling you what to think and what to believe. So it's hard for me sometimes to say what I know and then say what is intuitional, because of taking that kind of 30,000 foot view of what's going on in the world. And so I definitely encourage you all to not take what I say. Well, how do I articulate this? Take what I say, but use your own intuitive abilities to look at it from a higher perspective of what's occurring. And so I see all of that kind of playing out, and then what's even more so is there's some viral clips going around of JD Vance. He was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and Theo Vaughn was talking to him about Gaza and how, it's a genocide, how there's all these kids being killed, and how it's so tragic and heartbreaking, and how, his taxpayer dollars are going to it, and he thinks it's terrible. And JD Vance was basically like, yeah, it's not a genocide. War's hell. So Ukraine anyhow. And it was very telling to me that, again, I don't know. Of course, there's some element of the AIPAC, which is the Israeli Political Action Committee, who's in bed with, JD, and there's probably some level of politics. But to not take into account the kids that are being killed at a mass level with sniper bullets being targeted, have proof of being targeted into these kids, I think that it just shows a lack of leadership, maybe a lack of spine to stand up to Israel. And, our common retort that I hear is like, well, they're our greatest ally in the region. Look, you can summarize being an ally as being someone's friend, right? And if my friend's going around killing babies, maybe I shouldn't be their friend anymore. Maybe they're not the good guy. And there's this common thing of, oh, well, Israel is surrounded by everybody that wants to destroy them. Well, Israel's the one who has not played by the rules in many ways. Number one. And number two, if you go back to the early 1900s, whenever the UK backed creating a Jewish state in that area, if you go back to then, Israel's the aggressors. They're the ones who just went in and started to try to just take control of the land and killed tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, and disrupted like the order, if you will, in that area. They went into the beehive, if you will. And I think, granted, given all of that, the entire region has been rather peaceful regarding that. And it seems to me that Israel's the one who, through their language, through their actions, have created a more unstable region in the Middle East. And I'm not trying to say this to justify the things that Hamas has done, because they have definitely done terrible things. A lot of terrorist organizations have done terrible things. And what's hilarious is Bibi Netanyahu is on video now. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he's on video now saying that his government has provided weapons to terrorist organizations in Gaza to fight Hamas. And the terrorist organizations that they have given weapons to are considered an arm of ISIS. So what is hilarious about this is I've been telling you guys this. I've told you this for I don't even know how long. It was intuition at the time, and now it's just fact. It's fact now that the governments create the terrorist organizations. They had people in Congress testify in America that we were supplying hundreds of millions of dollars, at this point probably billions, to terrorist organizations in the Middle East. And now we have Bibi Netanyahu on camera admittedly saying that he is arming terrorist organizations in Gaza. Well, it's to fight Hamas. Let's say they wipe out Hamas. Now who controls that region? A worse organization, a worse terrorist organization now controls that region, which will justify. Now, once they realize, like, oh shit, maybe we should attack Israel. We're getting all this power. Now Israel has another reason to go in and wipe out Palestinians. Guys, when you take a step back and analyze the chessboard and what people are doing, it's none of this stuff comes as a surprise. I mean, like, you could sit here and be like, wow, Clayton, you can see the future. Like, you can just see these things happening. But I'm telling you, it's nothing special. Like, I'm just taking a step back, analyzing the chessboard, seeing what's happening and what makes logical sense, because I'm not being indoctrinated by the media every day. It's good to take a second, get the headlines, but don't sit there and allow your brain to be, penetrated with the words that they choose for you to think and believe. And I'm telling you, it's really not that crazy. Like, it's not, to me, it's not crazy, but to maybe the average person, it's like, oh my gosh. Like, to me, it's like, great. Like, finally, they're admitting it. Yeah, the governments fund the terrorist organizations. If governments stopped funding terrorist organizations, there would be no terrorist organizations, and all of them do it. They all do it. And it's ludicrous. It's all for chaos. It's all for destruction. It's all for killing the innocent people of the world. That's why they do it. And it's just insane to me. I mean, I get it. Again, because I'm analyzing the board, I get it. I understand why. They're doing it, but it doesn't make it right. And so we really need to call better for our leaders. We need to call better on ourselves even. We need to do better for ourselves, where we're actually creating the reality that we want to live in, not just accepting what we're being told by the media or the news, not just by accepting what seems right or is the easiest path, but by actually taking action on the right path, no matter how difficult it might be. And that's all of our responsibility. It's why the simplest thing you can do is like share these podcasts. The simplest thing you can do is maybe leave a rating. I don't know. Do very simple stuff, and it has a tremendous impact. But, only you know what the best course of action is for you. But speaking of best course of actions, we also have in LA. In LA, there are some riots and the National Guard got deployed. So basically what's happening is that ICE agents are basically going into different homes and areas in LA and deporting people. And people got fed up with this and basically started clashing with police, throwing rocks. There was a car that was set on fire in Compton, and it triggered Trump to send out 2,000 National Guard troops to LA to control the situation. I believe he said they'd be there at least 60 days, could be longer. We don't know. And Gavin Newsom saying he might sue the Trump administration because he believes that they did not coordinate properly before sending the troops. And this is all having flashbacks of 1992, whenever there was I'm blanking on the name, but it was when there was a controversial court ruling on police brutality. It was a lot bigger, but there was military intervention. I don't know. I'm forgetting the name of it. But basically, all these riots are tied to the immigration policies. And guys, this is such a tricky situation. And I think that our government has distilled this down to be too simple of a solution, where issues were created by Biden, yes, of allowing so many in, but the solution of just going in, ripping people out of their houses and deporting them does not make sense. It just doesn't. And this is the kind of chaos that gets created from it. And I think then to go into the military action, like it's like this spiral of just like bad decision after bad decision. Gavin Newsom, we're going to sue the Trump organization because we can't take control. And there's like truth to that. Like ICE is making it more difficult for Gavin Newsom to keep peace within his country, within his state. And then Trump, it's not sending the National Guard. It doesn't make it easy for either of them. But the solution of just go in and deport everyone, like that's going to cost that. First of all, that's costing us taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. I think that we really have to evaluate the situation we're in and realize that, and I get it, Trump ran on that. Like that's what we voted for. I didn't vote for it, but that's what was voted on by America. That's what America voted for, essentially, is for this to happen. So at some level, can't get mad at him, I mean, well, we can hold him to account, but I'm saying like as a nation, we can't be mad about it. But then he is going so far, and this is where it gets kind of, like wishy-washy, which is that he's even going to judges and threatening judges to be kind of taken off of courts. removed from their positions because they're basically blocking a lot of these actions. And I just, I look at it again. I look at it and I think there's just better solutions. We just don't. The solutions are bad. It's like our politicians have figured out a way to present us with two bad solutions, and then we have to fight amongst which one is the lesser evil. And I think it's terrible. And honestly, the more I look at this, it's like, first of all, the amount of money and scale, if you're going to remove every illegal immigrant from America, it's not feasible. You're never going to do it. And so we have to figure out a way to get them, let's say, into the tax system so that they are paying taxes, because I think that's a tremendous issue. You then have, unsafe work conditions for them because they can't go to police. They can't talk to police, even if they're legal. I know a lot of people of the Hispanic and Latin communities, they don't even want to call police. So now you have an issue within legal Hispanic citizens in Latinx, is that what essentially it is? In Latin communities where they won't call police because they're afraid of being deported, even if they're legal. And I know that's like a crazy thought, but it happens. And it's like, what is the reality of our current situation? And so you create an unsafe environment in those communities because now they have no protection. They have no police force to protect them, which is also a tremendous issue. And so there's definitely this air of insecurity, of fear, that is getting created in these communities. And I think what we're seeing in LA is a manifestation of that insecurity, of that fear of like, it's us against the police, because the police are just going to come in. Doesn't matter if we're legal or not. You see how many instances there are of citizens being deported. There's instances where, if a pregnant woman and her husband, maybe he's an illegal, he gets taken away. It's just, there's so many situations where it's just not feasible to deport all of them. It's just not. I'm not saying it's a good idea we shouldn't just let people in, right? And this is where like the disconnect gets in. Is like Trump's view is create the wall, don't let anyone in, deport them all. Versus the other side of the aisle is let them all in and just let them do whatever they want, be undocumented. And I think both of those are terrible situations, but we need to take the best of each. And I think you create strong borders so that you don't just let anybody in. We know who's entering our country. Otherwise, you have risk of terrorist organizations entering, which has happened. We've seen just massive military age men entering, which is happening. We're losing track of kids, which is happening, which is all terrible stuff. And that is because of a lack of a strong border, of not knowing who's coming in. And it has cultivated this system where we are basically creating a terrible labor situation for our own people, whether they're illegals, whether they're children, because now children will get put to work and they're illegals, so they can't say anything. They don't have any rights. You essentially lose all of your rights. And so now you're in this country illegally. So that's a huge problem. Now, how do you fix it, right? You close the wall, right? The very first thing is you have to stop the bleeding. So you have to close the wall. You have to build it. Maybe you have to build it. Honestly, you could probably do it with just drones. At this point in time, we could just have a drone network that would be able to signify when someone's crossing. We don't need to build a physical wall, but I get psychologically there is like there's a stronger psychological kind of pull if you say a wall. So maybe we call it like a virtual wall. Or a technology wall. I don't know. I'll workshop that. But basically, you can just create a wall of drones and you'll know exactly where people are. Then you'll be able to have drones that could like metaphorically tag them so they could follow them. So, it would be extremely cost effective compared to actually building a wall. But then the next layer to this is, what do we do with all the illegals that are already here? My opinion is that we need to figure out a way where you get them some sort of documentation, you get them somehow on the books so that they can pay taxes, so they can become a working member of society, so that they can kind of get processed, if you will, in the system. So we know who's here. It'll create a better cohesion within our country, a better cohesion with our police force and with them. And I think that's just what we have to do. And the beauty of it, and here's the issue though, is that the big corporations don't want that. They don't want that at all, because if you have people who are on the books, who are able to, what's the word I'm looking for here? pay taxes, then they're going to have their cost of living is going to go up, which means now corporations are going to have to pay them more. They're also going to have to provide them with sanitary work environments. And so, not, again, that's not every corporation, but the vast majority, right? Like that's what's happening. And so, I think we have a very tough situation on our hands. And I think that, and I think the solution is very easy. I think what I'm saying makes sense, and I think it's common sense. And that's a crazy thing is, you're not just being a brutal person, but we have to take care of people. We have to protect people. And what's the best way to protect and provide for people? And I think that's the best solution that I've come up with. Now, I have some meetings with other people of like the Latin community to learn more about kind of like the situations they're going through. But like, this is my leading theory right now. It's down to change. I need to talk definitely with more people in the Latin community, leaders of the Latin Hispanic communities. And I have some plans to do that, but stay tuned. Might be getting a radio spot. So we'll see what happens with that, but just, wink, wink. So we'll see what happens with all that. But yeah, I think just as a whole, we have to come together and we have to think of solutions that are outside the box. And you can't think outside the box if you're being indoctrinated by the media and by really anybody. I ask you to be indoctrinated by me. You're listening to me, so you're getting indoctrinated by me at some level, but hopefully at least the indoctrination I'm giving you is to help you think outside the box. And hopefully it at least gives you another viewpoint of how we can come together as one people, as one family, and we can create a better society for everybody. Because at the end of the day, I think that's at our heart's level is what we want to do and what we should do. And so if you're on board with that, I love you. I appreciate you. Share this podcast a little bit more. And if you don't share this podcast, well, we're going to have a talk about it whenever I see you in the 6th dimension.